Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I hope you're all right. It is absolutely scorching today, like this is amazing. I think it's hit about 33 degrees here, so I am sweltering. I've literally put on a full face of makeup just for the purpose of doing this video. I am regretting this. So the purpose of today's video is that this week I went for my very first smear test. So a smear test is also known as a cervical screening test, and you are invited to these from 6 months thereabouts before you turn 25. So I was invited to my first smear test about a year and a quarter ago. It sounds so weird, doesn't it? So yeah, it would have been around last May that I got my first letter to be invited, and I have really put it off. So there were multiple reasons that I'd put it off, mainly because I'm stupid, but other reasons I'd put it off were just the anxiety around it, I think. It's impossible to ever get an appointment at my doctor's as it is, so I kind of just thought that I'd be booking it and then I wouldn't be able to get in anyway and I'd have to keep ringing. But on top of that, I really don't have a valid reason as to why I kept putting it off. I've always had it hammered into me from quite a young age that these smear tests are really important. So depending on how old you are, you may or you may not remember Jade Goody. Jade Goody was a Big Brother star many years ago who died, I think, in excess of 10 years ago now. And she died of cervical cancer. Now, because of that, my mum went and had her smear test, which she was due, and they found some abnormal cells, which meant my mum had to have some kind of surgery to have them removed. They weren't cancerous, but had they been left there, they could have turned into it. At school, I also had the HPV jab, which a lot of people just know as the cervical cancer jab, but it is a jab that is now given to girls from the age of, I think it's 13 at school. It's a course of 3 jabs, but it's supposed to help protect against the HPV virus, which is what these cells, what they're looking for when they do your cervical screening. So I had this jab nearly 13 years ago now, and in my head I was just a bit like, meh, well, I'm protected, when I'm not. It helps protect, and I think it's something like a 75% less chance of having those cells, but that doesn't mean that it still won't happen to me. It still means there is a chance. I'm just more protected than somebody else who hasn't had it. So for multiple reasons, I had put this smear test off. But yesterday I decided, well, I didn't decide yesterday. Last week, my friend Hayley, who you will have seen in my weekly vlog, who has the Discuss podcast, she put something on her Instagram stories about the fact that she was booking her smear test, or that she'd had her smear test, and it kind of just prompted me to think, right, okay, Amber, come on, pull yourself together, you need to do this. So that's exactly what I did. I rang my doctors, again, which you will have seen in my weekly vlog, and initially they were unsure whether they could book me in or not because of COVID, so they were only booking people in if their last test was abnormal, but on the basis it was my first one, they did agree to book me in. So when I got there yesterday, it was a different doctor's surgery to where I usually go to, but I got there, and to be honest, I was a bit nervous, but I think I'm just nervous of the potential result. Like, it's unlikely that anything would come back abnormal, but I think it's something like 1 in 20 people have abnormal cells. That doesn't mean that you have cancer. So the cervical screening is not a test for cancer. What it is it's a prevention. So the whole point of this smear test is that they try and find any abnormal cells so that they can tackle them there and then, rather than not having your smear test, not knowing that those cells are there, and then down the line obviously finding out that it has developed into cancer. I wasn't really nervous for the test itself. I think because I have gone through IVF and I have had umpteen investigations, me going into a doctor's surgery and taking off my knickers isn't unusual. So that didn't bother me at all. What bothered me was the fact that people were saying it was painful, and I was thinking, well, surely it can't be as bad as obviously my egg collection where I was sedated. It can't be as bad as any of that. So I'd kind of got myself into a bit of a tizzy about it, but then yesterday I got there and the nurse was absolutely lovely. So it's ever so strange because obviously everybody's in full PPE, wearing masks, the gloves. I had my mask on and I had to wait outside the doctor's surgery. She then came outside and got me and introduced herself. Her name was Callie and she was so lovely. So we sat down and we were talking and she asked me some generic questions about whether or not I was sexually active, whether or not there was any possibility that I could be pregnant, any contraception that I was using. So that was an easy conversation. That conversation was over and done with very quickly. And she was so lovely. So I made the silly mistake of not wearing a dress. Today I'm wearing a very long dress and realistically yesterday would have been a better day to wear a really long dress. So I got there and I had to take my joggers off and position myself on the couch, something I am really becoming a pro at. And I had like this little towel that I had to put over me. And then all they do is you obviously have to separate your legs, but they use a little clamp. So this clamp is literally just like this. It's like a little beak. And then they put that into your cervix, which is like, they just put it kind of, your cervix is the opening between the vagina and the womb. So it's the opening to the womb. So they then separate that. It really, I expected to feel something, but honestly, it was like the tiniest bit of pressure ever. Like it really didn't feel like anything. So they open that up and then they have like a little brush, which is almost like, I don't even know how to describe it. I suppose it's a bit bristly, like a toothbrush, but not as many bristles. And then she just gives that a little sweep around and pulls it out. And that is honestly the test done. So all in all, I think it took about 20 seconds. Like that was it. I kind of was in there, asked a few generic questions, took off my knickers, hopped on the bed, bish bash bosh. Job done. And that was it. And then I was dressed and off I went. So I now have to wait 2 weeks for my results. I will receive my results in a letter. She will also get a letter. So she did say to me that obviously if anything is abnormal, then she will give me a call and discuss that with me over the phone. She's not going to let me find out just by a letter in the post. And then they will take the relevant steps. So it is really important that you're going to these. Obviously, you know, at the age of 25, there is a low chance that anything would develop, but the whole point of it is that the earlier you go, the sooner they can catch anything, and realistically they can then catch it before it develops into anything really nasty. So it is the HPV virus that they're looking for, so they're the cells themselves are not necessarily cancerous, and it is just a case of stopping anything before it develops. So it really is a case of prevention. It's really important that you go to this, girls. I know that jumping up onto a bed and getting your nunny out in front of people that you don't know isn't necessarily the nicest thing to do, and it's nerve-wracking, but you have to remember that these people do this for a living. Like, they will have seen so many different vaginas that realistically they don't care what yours looks like. But other than that, like, I really don't see any reason why not to go. I completely understand that the fear of the unknown is really prominent, and I also really understand that you may get results that you don't like and are not very nice results, and you may get that phone call or that letter and have some bad news. You know, I can't 100% guarantee that that's not going to be the case for me. I really hope it's not, but if it is, then I will deal with it. And that's the thing that you need to remember, that by having this smear test or cervical screening, it's a prevention, and therefore anything that they find, hopefully they can then get rid of that. And to me, I think, well, surely you would rather every 3 years go for this smear test than not go and it potentially develop into something sinister. And, you know, to me, I think once every 3 years having to get my vagina out for a stranger, I'd rather do that than have cervical cancer. It's really horrible, it's really not very nice, and I completely understand that people feel really awkward, they feel embarrassed, they feel uncomfortable. Of course you're going to. And maybe it's because I've gone through IVF, etc., that it really doesn't faze me at all having to do that. But just remember, they see thousands. Like, your vagina is not going to stick in their head. They are not going to go home and go to their husband's core. I had a patient come in today, she had a right ugly vagina. It's just not going to happen. It really isn't going to happen, I promise. So do make sure that you are going to your smear tests. What I am going to do is I'm going to link below the NHS website to cervical screening, so you can get loads of really factual information rather than just my information. You can get proper factual information, and I'm also going to link Joe Cervical Cancer Trust. So they did a smear for smear campaign, which you may have seen on my Instagram last night. I posted a picture for that last night. They also have an awful lot of information on the smear test and anything that can kind of put your mind at ease. So I really do recommend reading it if you're feeling nervous about going, but please go. If you're due one, ring your doctor. If you are going to get a letter soon, if you're 24, 25 and you are getting that letter to encourage you to go, give them a ring. If your doctor's surgery aren't doing smear tests at the moment, chances are they will have a waiting list and they will then get in contact with you when you can book it. So please do make sure that you do it, because the consequences of not going could be far worse. So please do. I will be filming a weekend vlog this weekend, so enjoy your G&Ts, enjoy your weekend, and I will upload that on Tuesday. So if I don't see you over the weekend on Instagram, which I'm sure I will, then I'll see you on Tuesday. Have a good weekend.